And he's going to talk kind of, guys, did you guys have a good time listening to Tracy Koa the other day about her co-living property? Well, this is her business partner, Dustin. Where is Dustin? Where'd he go? He doesn't have his camera on. There he goes. Dustin, what up, brother? How you doing?
Hey Pace, how you doing? How's the appointments today?
It was good, man. Locking up deals is always a fun thing to do. So Dustin, guys, Dustin has been focusing. He's so incredible. He's actually one of the most easy people to communicate with because he voice memos me frequently, which is great. And he'll let me reply back to him the same day or 3 days later. He's incredible. Also, he's been so amazingly helpful for a lot of people, not only in Owners Club, but also just people that are wanting to get into co-living. He and Tracy are teaching the co-living semester right now. So if you guys are trying to get certified in like co-living 101, Dustin and Tracy have been the ones that have been teaching that class, which has been so well received. Everybody's super happy about it. Dustin is also a new person that you guys can meet at Squat Up Summit in person. For those of you guys that are like, who should I go meet? Dustin's definitely one of those people that you should meet. Anybody that's wearing an Owners Club shirt, you should go up to and introduce yourself to them, thank them for all of the giving back they do to the community. And Dustin has a deal and some stuff for us to hear about today for the next 15 minutes. What do you got for us today, brother?
Yeah, yeah. Also, first I wanted to mention a couple things about Spot Up Summit, but also the last mastermind. Like you talk about when you're in proximity to other people's molecules, how true that is. And I wanted to, so 18 months ago is rewinding. I called Jill Barkley. I was like, Jill, should I go to the mastermind? I was like, should I spend that money on the mastermind or marketing? And she's like, 100%, you go to the mastermind. And I knew she was right. But if I told anyone like what I was spending, what I was doing, they're like, dude, you're crazy. So anyway, what I'm getting at is the people in there. I think the way you worded it was you're not paying to be in the room, but you're paying for other people not to be in it. And so I
Yeah.
remember talking like one on one with Tumanowski, Alejandro Alvarez, uh, Nita Patel. And Nita, though, speaking to her in person, I think it was the day after on the podcast at your house. When you meet, like hearing her story and then seeing her in the eyes and then what she does, like you can't go home after that and you can't be the same. And so the reason I mention it is those are the types of things that Squad Up Summit, like, it's just not possible to go back home the same.
Yeah, it's just not. I mean, I wish that I could have convinced myself when I was in my early 20s that that was a real thing, was being around the right people is what will change your life more than anything else. But I was blue collar brainwashed that educating myself came from literally just learning in a book or watching a video. But if you guys go into my parents' house, my dad has one of the biggest libraries of self-help books. And my dad never got in the right rooms. He was too busy working, too busy reinvesting in his construction company that now my dad's nearing 70. And he is no further ahead than he was when he was in his 40s. And it's because he just kept reading books instead of actually implementing and getting around the high level people. And I can tell you, I've read this here. Here's a good question. How many people have read Tony Robbins' books or one book? Anybody? Okay. I have never read a Tony Robbins book. I have all of his books on my desk right now, all signed by him personally. Who do you think is further ahead, the person who read his books or the person who hung out with him for 3 days? Who do you think is
I'm
further ahead?
out.
Okay. It's the same thing with people that are doing this business, the real estate business, raising capital, co-living, knocking doors, whatever it is. You could read all the things, you could watch all the videos, you could do all the things, but it really comes down to being your molecules vibrate, right? How many people in here have kids that you love your kids more than any other kid on the planet? And when other people's kids are around you, you're like, yeah, they're cute, but like they're not mine, right? You guys know that feeling. Okay. Why is that the case? Well, because you are made of molecules, right? Obviously. and your molecules vibrate a certain frequency, and you went and made a baby with another person that has molecules. And so your molecules mixed and became a child. And that child grows up, and those molecules are recognized by your molecules as your molecules. They recognize each other. It is the craziest thing when you look at the science of how molecules vibrate when your kids are around, they vibrate differently. And it is so cool. It's the same thing with real estate investors is that when a real estate investor, an entrepreneur who speaks a completely different language than anybody else on the planet, it's a very different language, entrepreneur language. Your all of our molecules getting around each other feel that vibration. There's nothing that can resonate or make such an impression on us as much as personal molecules. So it changes the game, and it's also where I built my relationship with Dustin when we went on that hike. Coming back from the hike, and you were asking me for very specific advice, like what should I do now? Da, 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 da. And what's so funny is like as we had that conversation, I said, go do this, go do this, go do this. And you were like, really? Like almost as if it wasn't possible for you. And then, not that you didn't ever have a belief in yourself. You're like, really? You think I could do that in a year? Like you knew you could do it, but like that time frame that you had was, I think, a little bit like, okay, that's pretty fast. And then it was like half the time frame that I gave you, you did it in. And you came back and you're like, okay, dude, I need way more challenging goals, right? And so every time I see you, you're like, give me more, give me more, give me my next couple of steps. And so
Yeah.
this is where you build long-lasting relationships is at the in-person events. It just has a way of changing things at a different level. So
Yeah, it's funny because my all the males in my family are military, very disciplined, like, and I don't meet many people that outwork me in terms of like partners.
hmm,
And Tracy Koa and Kaipo, Tracy is like a machine. Like she's one of the very few people that make me feel lazy sometimes. Like Kaipo too. So it's pretty amazing. Like without going to Squad Up Summit, the domino effect, I wouldn't have met any of them doing what we're doing. So it's pretty amazing. I did want to
yeah,
share one. I think this would resonate a lot with people. But my favorite wholesale deal to date is because I went to Squad Up. I met Courtney Taguchi. Fast forward 6 months, he convinces me to go to a workshop 3 days after Boston.
yeah,
And anyway, the deal, all it was, I met a bunch of people at the workshop. They're calling me after. They're like, I got a deal, I got a deal. I'm like, ah, you probably don't. I finally look at it and I was like, you got a deal. And anyway, as soon as I saw it, I knew who to call. And it turned into a $14,000 assignment fee, 70K gross. And all I did was he already had the deal, and then I just called the dispo person. So just right in the middle. So I wanted to mention that just because I without bought up, that wouldn't have happened.
yeah. Last year, because of Squad Up, I bought 84 units in Lubbock and Amarillo, Texas, on seller finance from somebody that was in at Squad Up Summit. They just came up to me in the hallway and they said, hey, I've got this apartment building. I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, yeah, you reach out to my team and he'll help, Bo will help you and walk you through it. And he was like, really? I'm like, bro, how many times do I got to say it? That's what I say in my head, but outwardly, I'm like, of course. He sends us the deal. We pay him 90,000 bucks and I own 85 units in Lubbock and Amarillo. So like you go to the place where people are doing deals, right? And yeah, I love what Bobby says. He says there's no greater education than travel in general. Now stack that with like-minded individuals. What I love about traveling is that as I'm in the air, I look down and I'm like, wow, this world is so big and I am so small and there is so much money out there. All I have to do is provide more value by acquiring more relationships and skills. That's all I have to do. And if I do that, I make more money. I make more money, I can give back. I can control my life. I have more options, which is awesome. So, Dustin, what's fun about you guys, you, Tracy, and Kaipo, you guys are working on some new stuff with co-living. You want to talk about that for a little bit today?
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to share too some of the things we're just giving out. I'll throw it in the chat. But we have just a free ebook. So it's like if you look at this ebook, the calculator, and then I have a slide deck of just a deal that I broke down like macro to micro, every possible thing you should know about it. Okay, Tracy just shared it. It's
About the
a
deal or about co-living?
uh co-living, and then if it's cool, I'll screen share real quick.
Yeah, let me give you co-host.
All right, so I'll skim through this. If you guys go to the link Tracy just shared, you can get access to this deal breakdown. But ultimately, yeah, in co-living, we're going over all the big stuff you need to know, like location down to the there we go, down to the bed, bath. And so right here, all right, so before I go into the co-living very quick, I want to just share something that inspired me at a very young age. My grandfather always talked about this, Grandpa Geroski. He'd always say, back in my day, a candy bar only cost a nickel. And I'd always ask him why. Like, why is it different? Why is it $1 now? And he could never, ever tell me. And so this is the essentially what we're talking about in co-living, like the big fundamentals all the way down to the little things. So before we answer that, I just want to show in this slide deck, we have it on fractional. Like here's a QR code, here's a link. You can get all of this free stuff. But yeah, in our co-living, we're shown how to buy new builds, which we can partner with people, all the way up to a 1212. But here's an example of a deal that we're finishing up now, Port Orange. All the data that we're seeing, these co-living, they cash flow 1,600 a month. That's pretty attractive because my Everest, uh, Tracy's Everest, we both have the same. We want to help 1,000 people afford housing through co-living. But our side quest is we want to help 1,000 students get their first co-living deal. And so I'll skim through this. Everyone can get access to it, but it's just breaking down the deal. It's about to go live in 2 weeks. Why we liked it, why we bought it, all the way down to the floor plans, bus stop locations, some pictures of before, some after. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And so, right here is what we were discussing with Tracy the other day. But ultimately, our goal is when someone goes through the co-living semesters inside of Sub 2, they have all the resources they possibly could need to tackle a deal. And so, on this fourth and final week, we're going to be showing how people can raise capital for their deals as well.
I love it. I freaking love it. Guys, drop Tracy, if you could drop that in the side chat again, that'd be so great. This is great. I think this is exactly what I want to see from people in Owners Club is the whole goal of Owners Club is to not just be somebody going, I'm working on deals. The goal for everybody in Owners Club is to literally go change the industry in which they are focusing on, right? And when you look at Tracy and Dustin, Kaipo, choosing co-living as their main strategy, going in and going, how do we expand this part of the industry instead of just being a participant? How do we change it? How do we improve it? How do we hold it to a higher standard? And how do we make sure that the customer journey is also held to a higher standard and the bad actors are removed from the industry because we are the ones that are running it. And so it's really cool to see you guys starting to pair up, partner up, take best practices from other companies, aggregate that, and then go out and build your own pathway. It's freaking exciting.
Yeah, and the best part, honestly, is so co-living, it's a very attractive investment, but I have a personal connection because it's let me travel through the Mediterranean, Japan, Hawaii. That's how I met my wife, was I was living in some co-living on North Shore, Oahu. And so I have a lot of different connections other than monetary. And yeah, it's pretty cool because we had some co-living in Orlando as well. And you see how dramatic it helps them, helps their life.
I had it was kind of fun for the people that are not into co-living yet. It is the wave of the future. It is where we are getting rid of our regular rentals over the next. We have 80. houses right now in regular rental status, just renting them out normally. And we're in the process of basically selling all 80 over the next couple of years as leases expire. And we're rolling our money into either RV parks, mobile home parks, et cetera, or into co-living single family. And I was doing a talk at a local real estate investor meetup, and there was like 400 people in the room. And there's this guy that gets up as I'm talking about co-living, and he starts criticizing me. He literally like stands up and he's like, "You are these people that are staying in these co-living properties, they're ruining the neighborhoods." And I was like, do you even know what kind of tenants stay in these properties? Like incredible people, dude. And he just sits here, okay? And he sits there and starts criticizing. And this lady stands up, and she's a nurse. It's pretty obvious by the way she's dressed. She's a nurse. And she says, I just want to let you know that I live in a co-living property, and I actually live in one of Pace's co-living properties. I came here to thank Pace for providing housing to me that's affordable. He doesn't know me. I didn't know him. I just know because he had a Pace. I had a YouTube video about the co-living property, and then she ended up moving in it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I live in Pace's co-living property." And she started crying, just going, "Do you know that half that room is full of like nurses that are trying to pay off their student debt, and this provides housing for them in a way that nothing else can?" And this guy sits down and says, I am so sorry. It was such a touching moment. And I think there's a big misconception in co-living, but people like Dustin, Tracy, Kaipo, and other people are changing that narrative and getting people to recognize and realize that it's not just normal people doing co-living and living in co-living. It's incredible people that are smart about their money and don't want to just hemorrhage and have these houses to take care of. And the world is changing right before our eyes. People are more nomad. People are more transitory. People want experiences. They don't want to be tied down with big houses. And furthermore, people want to graduate from college and go pay off their debts as fast as possible. And living in a 3-bed, 2-bath house that costs $2,800 a month is really hard to do that. But if you can get into a co-living property for $950 a month with utilities and internet included and cleaning included as well, you have a really high chance